Hi, this is our first topic lesson of the week. It's going to be two topic lessons this week. And we're going to be looking at the Anglo-Saxons' arrival, or today on the sort of legends or ideas about the Anglo-Saxons' arrival that we're not too sure about whether it really happened or not. We're going to recall our prior knowledge that we've already been looking at already this half term, use the features of a letter, and use persuasive language. After the Romans left, who do you think would have tried to invade Britain? Who was around and about? Bear in mind that the Roman Empire didn't cover the whole of Britain. We looked at a map of the Roman Empire a few days ago. Who could there be? Well, even before the Romans left, Britain was a target for invaders. This is confusing. The Scots attacked from Ireland because the Scots didn't originally live in Scotland. The Scots originally lived in Ireland. The people who lived in Scotland were called the Picts, and they attacked from the north, and already the Saxons were attacking from Europe. Why did so many of these people try and attack? More importantly, do you think they carried on after the Romans had left? Have a think about that. I would think they probably did. If the Romans were there protecting the British people, or the Britons as they were called at the time, if they went, then people might see that as an invitation to definitely do some invading. The Scots and the Saxons eventually settled in Britain. The Scots in the north, which is now Scotland, and the Saxons in the south. The Saxons in the south are part of this group we've been talking about already, called the Anglo-Saxons. But why did they come? The answer is, we don't exactly know. We do know that after the Romans left in AD 410, raids from Picts and Scots did continue, and Britain struggled to defend themselves, but it's harder to be sure what happened next. According to Gildas, who was one of the few people who was writing things down at that time, in AD 449, an important leader in Britain made a deal with the Saxons. This leader was a man called Vortigern. Vortigern invited the Saxons over to Britain to help defend against the Picts and Scots. In exchange for their help, Vortigern is supposed to have paid the Anglo-Saxon armies and let them start settling in the southeast of Britain. So, why do we think he might have made this deal? Was it sensible? What happened next? Just pause for a minute and have a think about that. I mean, I think obviously he made this deal because the Britons were so used to having the Romans looking after them that when the Romans went away, they weren't that good at fighting off the invaders. So maybe that's why Vortigern asked for help from the Anglo-Saxons. But as we shall find out, it might not have been the best idea. Gildas wrote that the Saxons helped the Britons to fight the Picts and the Scots for a while, but they soon felt that their deal with Vortigern wasn't good enough. When Vortigern refused to give the Saxons more land or pay them more money, the Saxons rebelled and began to attack the Britons themselves. Gildas tells us that the Saxon Rebellion was violent. They looted and burnt many villages, killing as they went. So maybe Vortigern's idea to try and get help from the Anglo-Saxons wasn't such a good one. According to legend, so bear in mind there's no evidence this happened, Hengist and Horsa were two brothers who led an army into Britain to help fight against the invading Picts. While they were fighting for Vortigern, Hengist and Horsa are said to have seen how weak and cowardly the Britons were. They brought more soldiers from Europe to help them start an invasion of their own. The painting at the bottom, or the drawing at the bottom, shows what an artist thinks Hengist and Horsa arriving in Britain might have looked like. What I want you to do is imagine you are Vortigern. I want you to write a letter to Hengist and Horsa asking them to come to Britain. You need to tell them that you want their help and what you're going to give them in return. If we're writing a letter, we need to remember some important features. We need an address. Well, we don't know exactly where Vortigern lived, so I guess we're just going to have to put Britain for the address. The date, I think, is 449 AD. We need to start with Dear, so we write into Hengist and Horsa, so it's going to be Dear Hengist and Horsa. And we need to use formal language. This is kind of like a business letter in a way. We are writing formally to show respect for the people we're writing to. This was my example. Britain, 21st of January, 449. Dear Hengist and Horsa, I am writing to you as we are in grave danger. Ever since the Romans left, we have been stretched to defend ourselves against invasion from the Picts and Scots. We have lost many of our fighting skills, and fear we will soon be overrun. Your bravery and ferociousness is legendary, and I am writing to ask for your help. If you come and help us, I can promise you land and riches. All I require of you is to come and fight for me. I will give you great treasures and a portion of East Anglia. Hope you can help. Yours sincerely, King Vortigern. So, in your own words, I mean, you might want to steal some of that. Write your letter. When you've done that, move to the next slide. So, here's another illustration. It seems historians think that Hengist was real, but they're not so sure about Horsa. Do these people in this picture look pleased to see the people in the boats? Do you think? I think they are. They're kind of waving their spears in the air, not pointing them at the people on the boat, and the guy on the boat's waving back. So I guess this is when they said they were coming to help. How would the Britons have felt when the Saxons turned against them? What do you think? I guess they would have felt betrayed. Might have felt a bit stupid for letting them come in the first place. So that's the stories that we are told. What really happened? So there's archaeological evidence. We have dug up things which show that some Saxons were starting to settle in Britain before Vortigern is said to have invited them over in 449. And some historians think that Gildas's reports of a violent rebellion were exaggerated. But however, it happened. It looks like a number of Saxons came to Britain at this time, as did, as we've already learned, some Angles and Jutes. So this bit about the Saxons going back on their word. We can't be sure about this period of history. This is why we used to call this the Dark Ages. Not because it was dark all the time, but because we just didn't know very much. Hardly anything was written down. A lot of what was written down a long time after the events happened. So we have to be very careful about sort of saying what happened during this period of time, although we do know more now than we used to. Bede and the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle both agree with Gildas in the main, but there are variations in the details. So we're not entirely sure how all this happened. We do know that the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes ended up settling in Britain, and we'll find more about that in the next lesson.